Chapter 6. Returning. We returned one afternoon. The car stopped in front of the old house gate. Everything was still almost unchanged since the day I left. Dust covered the rusty iron gate, the steps were cracked, and the few potted plants Mom used to grow now only had dry soil and some weeds left. The house seemed to be waiting, quiet, old, but never ceasing to open its doors. I opened the gate, helped Dad out of the car. He leaned on his cane, walked slowly. His eyes wandered around, as if looking back at his own self from many years ago. "The house is still the same, huh?" I said, my hand gently brushing over the crack on the wall. Dad didn't reply, but I saw the corner of his lips twitch. Maybe it was a smile. Maybe it was a sigh. We walked through each room, as if stepping into a museum of memories. The living room still had the heavy wooden furniture from the old days. On the wall hung an old photo, Dad, Mom, and me when I was little, in a rare instance of all three of us taking a picture together. I remembered that photo day. I stood in the middle, my hands holding my parents' hands, but my face was frowning. Looking back at the photo now, my heart sank. We used to be a family, even if awkward, not perfect, but a family. Dad pointed to the frame. "Back then you hated taking pictures." "Always grumpy, because I hated the shirt Mom forced me to wear. It was so itchy." Dad chuckled, a dry, short laugh, but genuine. We went into the kitchen. I opened the cabinet, unexpectedly finding an old tin box tucked away in the corner. Inside were a few yellowed photos, a handwritten letter, and a faded floral handkerchief. I took them out to look. The letter was from Mom to Dad, never sent. "Honey, our child is quieter than you think. I'm afraid that if I'm no longer here, the two of you won't understand each other. Don't push him too hard. He's just a child." I folded it back up, my hand trembling. Dad sat beside me, his eyes red. He didn't say anything. I didn't need him to say anything. We understood each other, with a silence that was no longer as heavy as before. Today I decided to fix up the house. Not just because it was dilapidated, but because I wanted us to rebuild together what had been broken. Dad and I whitewashed the walls together, replaced the broken glass panes, rearranged the old objects. He directed more than he worked, but just his presence was enough for me. One afternoon, Dad was watching me saw the old table when he said, "Dad used to think, if you left for good, Dad probably wouldn't be able to live in this house." I stopped what I was doing, smiled, but now Dad is back. And so am I. We didn't need many words. Just being there, together, was a profound healing. The first night sleeping back in the old house, I couldn't fall asleep at all. Every memory resurfaced. The times I was disciplined, the times I huddled under the blanket crying, even the first times I wished Dad wasn't my father. But then, a sound made me get up. Slow footsteps outside the hallway. I went out and saw Dad sitting on the chair on the porch, the place where Mom used to sit and prepare vegetables, and I used to play with my plastic toy car. I sat down beside him. "Can't sleep?" "Not used to it. The house is so familiar yet so strange." We were silent together. The moonlight shone. The moonlight cast onto the old roof tiles, illuminating my father's thin shoulders. In that light, I saw him, no longer the stern father in my memory, but a human being full of wounds, but learning to love again, for the first time, so slowly, so clumsily, but so sincerely. A few weeks later, the house was much tidier. I was getting ready to return to the city to continue my work, but this time it was different. I knew I had a place to return to. Dad saw me off at the gate, still holding his cane, but standing straighter. He looked at me, didn't say much, just handed me a small package. Inside was Mom's old handkerchief, the notebook he used to write in, and a piece of paper folded in quarters. "Thank you for coming back. And thank you for not leaving when I was silent." I held the piece of paper, unable to hold back my tears. I hugged Dad, the first time I initiated it, the first time without any hesitation. And he hugged me back, the first time without holding back either. The bus left the countryside. I looked back through the window. My father was still standing there, by the gate, his other hand gripping his cane. His hair fluttered gently in the afternoon breeze. I was smiling. This time, I wasn't carrying any anger. Just carrying one thing: love, healed, forgiven, and started anew. I returned to the city on a gentle sunny day. Everything was as bustling as ever, cars honking, life hurrying, streams of people rushing past each other as if no one could spare a glance for anyone else. But I was different. I was no longer the person full of resentment from before. I had returned, had faced it, had forgiven, and more importantly, I had understood. In the days that followed, I began to write. Not writing to complain about the past or blame anything. I wrote to preserve this journey, the journey my father and I had gone through, step by step, from strangers to closeness, from deep wounds to healing, from silence to understanding each other through glances and sincere gestures. I named that diary, The Last Encounter, and the story that begins anew. I didn't write like a writer. I wrote like a child who had been hurt, had been very cold, and was now learning how to warm up. Each page was a step I took with my father, each a piece of old memory soothed by the new presence. I didn't just write for myself. I wrote for those who had been hurt by their parents, who hadn't been hugged, hadn't been praised, who had cried silently because of a word, a look, a door closed in their face when they needed love the most. Perhaps you are like me, having once wondered, why is the person who gave birth to me also the one who hurt me so deeply? Perhaps you have also felt your heart grow cold every time family was mentioned. Having wished that your parents were gentler, more understanding, less hot-tempered, less critical. Having left home, not because you wanted to fly far away, but because you couldn't bear to stay. If that's the case, then I want to tell you one thing. You are not alone, and more importantly, you can rewrite your own story. I used to think forgiveness was something grand, like a full-page confession, a resounding declaration, I have forgiven. But actually, forgiveness is when you are no longer bound by old memories, is when you mention them without feeling a pang in your heart, is when you choose to stay in the present, rather than being lost in the past. It's not about forgetting, it's about remembering without feeling the guilt. After finishing the diary, I decided to post some excerpts on a healing forum. Unexpectedly, hundreds of people read it, and left emotional comments. Some said, I read it and cried all night. It's as if someone spoke my own heart. Others sent private messages, I haven't spoken to my father for 10 years. After reading your post, I called home. I was speechless. Just a small story, mine and my father's, could touch other people's hearts so deeply. I suddenly realized, everyone has an unwritten diary in their heart. And sometimes, just starting to tell it is already the beginning of healing. One early morning, I received a call from Dad. He spoke with his local accent. Dad replanted those flower pots your mother liked. They're very beautiful. Are you coming home for a visit soon? I smiled. I'm on my way. And I knew, this time I wasn't going back out of obligation. But because I wanted to. Love isn't actually noisy. It's not always, I love you, son, or, I forgive you, Dad. It's the small things we do every day, returning to the old house, cooking an old dish, writing an unsent letter, or simply, staying by each other's side when night falls. If you are reading this far, and there are still dark spots in your relationship with your parents, I'm not urging you to forgive immediately. I just hope you take one small step. Maybe write down a feeling you've never spoken. Maybe send a message, even if it's just, are you well, Dad, Mom? Or just, open your heart to yourself, I'm hurting, but I don't want to live in pain forever. I don't know where you are on this journey, but I believe, if you are brave enough to read this far, it means you want to heal. And that is a permitted beginning. Believe that, your heart deserves to be lighter, no matter how heavy the past has been. The story between my father and me continues, not with grand gestures but with ordinary days. And now, I know, forgiveness doesn't change the past, but it certainly changes the future.
I will share with you more healing videos, help you feel lighter, more motivated in this life. Please help me have more motivation to make videos by subscribing to the channel, sharing with people who need this video like you. Thank you very much.